Holbrook Travel is pleased to bring you this webinar today, a virtual field trip to the Osa Peninsula with Carlos Cibaja and Gerson Sequeira. Virtual experiences are not new, but never before has it been so easy to plug your classroom live into an ecosystem or community in Costa Rica. And today we'll give you a taste of what that can look like. We're taking you on a virtual experience into the mangrove ecosystem of Costa Rica's Osa Peninsula, where we'll get to know one of the most biologically diverse places in the country. In just a moment, I'll introduce our host and the local guide who will be leading us on our virtual tour today. As we set out exploring, we'll learn about the adaptations and biodiversity of the mangrove forest, and also about the relationship between climate change, local communities, and their economies. We're hoping to see some wildlife today, as well as 3 different mangrove species and other coastal trees and vegetation. We'll be using the Kahoot app today to make this experience interactive and to demonstrate how this might be used with your students. You may already be familiar with Kahoot from your own classroom use, or if you attended our trivia event back in November. But if not, that's okay. Our host will explain a little bit more about how we'll be using it today for our purposes. We'll have time for questions at the end. And just as a heads up, we may go a little longer than an hour today. If that happens, we hope you can stay with us the whole time. But if you do need to drop off, we understand, and we will be recording the presentation so you can catch up with anything that you miss. If you've traveled with us before, you're familiar with our global educational travel itineraries, but you may not know that Holbrook Travel has a collection of virtual travel experiences for students that can be integrated into a teacher's existing curriculum, like the one we'll be experiencing today. These programs are dynamic, interactive, and they're a great way to immerse students in experiential learning. And because they're not costly, they can be a great standalone program for schools with limited budgets, or they can be used for groups that are traveling as a helpful pre-departure engagement experience. Today's experience in the Osa Peninsula is just one example of the kinds of virtual programming we can offer. In addition, we can work with you to customize virtual programs on topics such as sustainable farming, visits with indigenous communities, interactive demonstrations like salsa dancing or traditional cooking, the Afro-Caribbean experience, and bat research, among other topics. Our host today is Carlos Bolaños Cibaja, who goes by Charlie. Charlie is a botanist with a master's degree in project management and 5 years of experience in the educational tourism industry. He has collaborated with multiple local governments and NGOs in their environmental programs across Costa Rica. We're also joined today by Gerson Sequeira, who will be our local guide taking us into the field. Gerson is a tour guide, a naturalist, ecology instructor, and an independent researcher. He is the director of an organization called Bioliteracy of the Osa Peninsula. He's originally from the country's Caribbean coast, but he spent the past 8 years living in the Osa. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our host, Charlie. Charlie, welcome, and thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you very much, Lindsay, and hello, everyone. My name is Charlie, and I will be your host today. I will also be introducing my colleague, Gerson, who is going to be our guide on the field. First of all, I want to explain how we will be using Kahoot app through this virtual learning experience. So I will share my screen. And for those of you who want to join us on the trivias and who want to participate on this interaction, that's the pin that you have to enter either on your app, on your Kahoot app, or on your web browser. So I will give just maybe a minute more for people to start joining in case you want to participate with us. We made some trivias for this experience that we hope that are going to be challenging for you. So if you want to test your knowledge, it's a good way to have some fun and some healthy competition going on through this virtual field trip. Okay, so Andrea, thank you so much for joining. You're the first one. Okay, someone RRR, great. So now we have 2 people. It's already a competition. And Walter, thank you very much, Walter. And some, in the meantime, while we wait a little bit, some images of the mangroves. Okay. Vanessa. First of all, after you finish signing into the Kahoot, I'm going to give you some general recommendations and some general considerations about the experience that we're going to have. How do I join? Says Lori Conrad. Okay, Lori, You have to go either on your web browser to www.kahoot.it and enter the pin that is showing on your screen, which is 7677035, or joining through the app on your mobile phone. The app is free to download, and the app will also ask you for the pin. It will always be the same pin, and you can join us from the beginning of the experience, or you can join afterwards. Doesn't matter. We already have 6 players. I answered, Lori, to your question on the chat with the pin. Okay. Thank you for asking, Lori. Some people might have had the same question. Okay, so we will begin with the ones that we have. And for everyone else, you know that you can join in afterwards if you want to. Okay, some recommendations. Please keep your microphones muted during this virtual field trip. Also, please take note of your questions, write them on the Q&A section, and we'll have a chance to answer all of them at the end of this virtual field trip. This is a real-time experience with Gerson on the Osa Peninsula. So some weird things might happen, like it might start to rain, or we might see something that we were not expecting. So let's enjoy this real-time experience. And if you have any technical issue, please just let us know. Some considerations, as I told you, the weather is unpredictable. We will be using a host local expert dynamic in which I will be switching turns with Gerson while he is explaining some things. Then I will expand further on the information, sharing my screen, showing you some videos, making some trivias, and we will have this dynamic. It's kind of a dialogue, but you can always ask your questions in between. And usually this experience lasts between 70 and 90 minutes, but we will do it a little bit shorter for you to get an idea of how this works. So it might not be longer than 16 minutes. The quality of the transmission will be standard mobile internet quality. Okay, so then we officially begin with this virtual field trip. I welcome you to Costa Rica, this little Central American country in the middle of the whole Americas. Costa Rica, we will be going to the southeast Pacific coast of Costa Rica. So that little horn you see there at the bottom right corner of your screen, that's where we are going to. It's called the Osa Peninsula. And if you want to go to the Osa Peninsula, you have to drive 7 hours from the main airport in Costa Rica. But if you want to go there by airplane, it only takes 30 minutes. Imagine that. So I would recommend going by airplane unless you really, really like to drive. The Osa Peninsula, it's a pretty amazing place in the world. It hosts Corcovado National Park. And if this rings a bell, it's probably because you are avid fans of National Geographic. And National Geographic calls Corcovado National Park the most biologically intense place on Earth because it is set to host 2.5% of the world's biodiversity in a single national park. Also, the Osa Peninsula is home to Sierpe wetlands, which is the largest mangrove forest in Central America. That's the cool place that we are going, the Osa Peninsula. And particularly, we are going to Golfo Dulce, or Sweet Gulf would be the literal translation in English. That place over there. And Golfo Dulce is very unique because there are only 4 tropical fjords worldwide, and this is one of those. And it's the only tropical fjord in the world which is anoxic, which means that on the depths of Golfo Dulce, there is no oxygen at all. So it's a very interesting place for researchers. There are many new species being discovered at Golfo Dulce, and many interesting things about how an anoxic ecosystem works. So that's the place that we're going to visit today. Now, the first trivia, just for getting you all warmed up before presenting Gerson. And the first trivia is, what is a fjord? So you have 30 seconds to answer what is a fjord. You have 4 different options if you see your screen, and then you just have to choose the one you think is the right one, just to get you warmed up. We have 10 more seconds to answer. Remember that Golfo Dulce, the place we are visiting, is a tropical fjord. And there are only 4 tropical fjords in the world. And most of you got it right. A fjord is a narrow and large entrance of water into land deep, very, very deep water with steep walls. So Andrea on the first place, but everyone is pretty close behind. So this is going to be a tight competition. And with this, I will stop sharing my screen and introduce you to our actual guide today, Mr. Gerson Sequeira. So Gerson, we're ready for you. Gerson, buddy, everything right over there? Yeah, there you go.
All right. 1 second. All right, here we go. Very good. Right now I'm getting wet, but it's part of it. I love it. So my name is Harrison, or beauties with all of you from far. We are in front right now of the Golfo Dulce. So we were looking for specific locations to make it a problem with the tide, let's say. It means I get complicated, but hopefully we get to place. All right. So
Gerson, we had some trouble listening to you, probably because of the connection. So I will ask everyone who is joining us on the webinar to please turn off their cameras to be able to help you with your bandwidth connection. So Gerson, can you repeat what you said earlier? Trying to keep your phone stable. It looks way better now, okay? And speaking slowly so that we can get everything, yep.
yeah, I was saying, because it's starting to rain, we have full moon and full tide. It was kind of difficult to find the right place for you for the webinar, but thankfully we found it. All right, so now we are in a good place, good position to start the class. And again, it's a privilege to be here. I'm gonna show you my partner. He's gonna help me out at some point. His name is Jair. He's one of the new generation that we were teaching all the time.
Thank you very much, Harrison. That is way better, way better. So having said that, maybe you can start showing us a little bit of what you have over there.
All right. I'm gonna move right here in front where I am. So I'm gonna put the camera like this, so you can see how high the water will reach. Now it's pretty much retreating, it's going away, but all that trash is coming from the ocean, and it's because of the tide. So in fact, here we have something very common to find in the coastal areas in Costa Rica, which are coconuts. All right. The coconuts at some point will protect the mainland from the erosion produced by those strong, very strong tropical storms. But also we have in front a pioneer species of mangrove, which is something very important that we're going to mention at some point of this talk. To the left, we have Mangrove, the tallest one. But then something very cool also that we have here, a tree that is growing literally on the sand. And it's so many scarlet macaws in the Osa because the scarlet macaws will look for these nuts, almond. These are called Malay almonds, and they will grow everywhere, and they are super successful. So sometimes in these kind of shorelines, you will have three very important species, for the area, for the wildlife, and for us as well. So yeah.
Can you show me a better detail of the almond leaf, the almond fruit that I saw you, and I see a bird flying in the air. Do you know what it is?
That's a frigate bird. I don't know if you can get maybe a zoom of it, but it's going far.
Yeah, it's a little bit far away, but I understood it was a great, magnificent frigate bird.
Exactly. So
probably...
those are typical birds that we will find in the area here because there is plenty food. But these frigate birds are looking for seagulls, small birds, to steal their food. So they are, for me, like the pirates of the Golfo Dulce. All right. So a couple of them now. Well, coming back to the almond tree, right here. You can see the round leaf, main vein, and also the seeds itself. Let me see.
And how are those almonds, the texture? Is it soft? Is it hard? And what are the uses? Do you know if people at Golfo Dulce eat the almonds or it's just the birds? Are there any
This is a
uses known
very,
to these trees?
this is a very strong shell. So we don't use it at all. It's mostly found in the gardens because of the shade, but also to provide food, as I said before, for the scarlet macaws or the parrots in general. All right. So, but in some areas of Costa Rica, people get the chance to pick up a leaf and use it as a plate because look my hand and look at the leaf. It's pretty big. So you can just sit it somewhere and put the food on top of it. So you're gonna be like a wrapping ecological plate, which is cool.
Of course, it's what we call like circular economy, zero waste. It's amazing. And now, Gerson, I will take the leadership here to show them a little video that I wanted to show of a macaw actually feeding on one of these almond trees.
Yeah,
And then
perfect.
I'll be back with you. So this is a common sighting in the Osa Peninsula. The scarlet macaws actually feeding on this tree that Gerson showed us, the beach almond or sea almond. And we can also see one of the unique characteristics of the macaws, parakeets, and parrots family, which is their ability to use their feet or their claws as a hand, as a mechanism or as a tool for feeding themselves. This is very unique between the birds, and they have 2 feet that look up front and 2 that look backwards. So it allows them to have this grip, which gives them a lot of maneuverability on their feet. Having watched that, I wanted to share with you a little trivia about birds before continuing with Gerson. And this one is related to the US birds, not Costa Rican birds. Let's see how much you know about bird species that live in the USA. How many bird species do you think live in the USA? For this one, we have 45 more seconds left. So Please do not Google it. It's not the idea, but try to use your biological intuition to answer this one. We might have some bird enthusiasts on our audience today, maybe one or two ornithologists, which might already know the answer, easy peasy. How do I answer? Lori, okay, the way of answering is if you are doing this on your app, just you choose the color of the answer you think is right, and then you just click on submit. If you are doing it on your web browser, it's a little bit different. You will have to switch between using the browser and going back to Zoom. So on the browser, you will only see the answers. On Zoom, you will find the question. So you will have to switch between Zoom and your browser to answer. So the right answer was 914 species have been recorded living in the USA. It's a lot. Andrea is in the first place, Alfred, Walter, Vanessa, and Freya keeping up with her. So it's still a tight competition. But now, what do you think about this one? And it's about bird species living in Costa Rica. So it's just for you to have an idea of bird diversity between Costa Rica and the USA. And that's also a common sighting in the Osa Peninsula. The Osa Peninsula holds the largest population of wild scarlet macaws in the whole country. And these are very magnificent birds. It's amazing to actually listen to them at the sunset and to see them feeding. They are always seen in couples. We only have 10 more seconds to answer. Remember that USA had 914 recorded bird species, and Costa Rica has 922 species, which is just a little bit more than the USA, but on a country that is tiny, tiny, tiny. So from those 922 bird species recorded in Costa Rica, half of them, which is more than 450 species, live in the Osa Peninsula. So that's just for you to get another idea of how biodiversity intense this place is, and one of the main reasons why we protect it and share it with the world. So Gerson, we are ready to go back to you. Any questions, just let me know via the Q&A section.
All right. Do you get to hear me?
I do hear you, but I do not see you.
Now?
Great.
Right. So, all right. I'm just gonna walk a little bit here to show you some of the threats that we have here, and it's kind of easy to see nowadays because plus the global warming. You get to see the red roots of the coconuts. All right, so I'm just gonna advance a little bit closer, and then I can find you something here in the trash. This is life. This is a propagule from a red mangrove. This is a seed. This is gonna turn into a mangrove tree. So I'm just gonna move it a little bit to the light. You can see it better. All right. So this is the main way to reproduce the red mangrove in front of us by the propagule. The propagule will drop in the water. I'm getting close into the water. And it will literally swim and float at the same time. You can see it's gone. All right. So that's one of the mechanisms to disperse that the mangroves use since thousands of years. All right. So it's a very adaptive and very effective way to live. You know. So this is a red mangrove, and I'm getting closer because thankfully the tide is retreating. So I can get here in my rubber boots. Good thing I have those. And I'm gonna show you the red mangrove. It's retreating and it's murky like this, and it's brackish water, fresh and salt water. You will have a stingrays, and I don't want to step on it. No. So this is gonna be very cool. So we are getting immersed into the mangrove roots. So you can see how the roots are working as a natural barrier. Whatever the wave is coming, it's gonna absorb all the impact, so the water can hit the land back or seriously. So you can see it here in the day. For me, this is pretty cool. This is just, and be here right now is the moment. And here, one of the reasons the red mangrove has the name because it's red. Right? Mainly used many years ago for colors to ink or dye is the word, the letter. Our grandfathers use it a lot. So it was very, very effective putting the color in the clothes. But nowadays, the mangroves, are on trend. So good thing we change that perspective now. We don't use it anymore. And here again, I have closer detail of the propagule.
Gerson, can you listen to me, Gerson? Gerson, do you hear me? I will give Harrison a minute because he will need to go into open air to be able to get a better reception. Well, it looks like Harrison got kicked out of Zoom, so we'll have to wait 1 or 2 minutes while he returns. In the meantime, while I give Harrison enough time to come back, I wanted to ask you or show you a very short video about one of the most interesting relationships that we can find happening in a mangrove ecosystem or in a tropical rainforest. Give me just 1 minute. He is Harrison. Maybe I'll wait a little bit before showing you this. Harrison, can you hear me, Harrison? Harrison, I still do not see you. Okay, well, I keep waiting for Harrison. I will then show you this. This is a very common phenomena happening on tropical rainforests and especially on the Osa. The Osa Peninsula is known because it has the largest diversity of fig trees in Costa Rica. And fig trees have a very unique relationship with fig wasps. So I'll show you this little video for you to get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So this is a common fig, Ficus racemosa is the species, and the fig wasps, they are the ones that will pollinate the fig. So this is a female wasp, and the female wasp needs to enter the fig in order to pollinate it. This female will do her best to get inside, but she will lose her wings on this race to get into the fig. So once she gets in, she will not be able to fly out. So she will sadly die inside the fig, but she will lay her eggs, and then all these eggs will hatch, and we will have hundreds of wasp larvae, males and females, that will be born inside the fig. And all these larvae will become adults and start mating with each other inside the fig. So the male adult wasps will start eating, will be born without wings, and will start eating their way out of the fig, and then they will die. And the only reason for them to do this is to make a tunnel for the adult female wasps to get outside. So that's the adult female wasps coming outside of the fig, ready to start the cycle once again to enter another fig and start pollinating another fig. This is a very unique phenomena, a very close relationship between figs and wasps. And as I told you, in mangroves and in the rainforest, actually figs are one of the main food resources available for fish, for mammals, for birds. So teeny tiny wasps pollinating these huge, massive fig trees and nurturing this whole chain of energy in tropical rainforests. Gerson?
Charlie, the
Yeah.
signal here is very bad because it's still raining, and you know it's part of the rainforest. Technology won't get that easy through.
I understand, Gerson. I just wanted to give you the little advice about that. Maybe come to an open area because you lost your connection while you were entering inside the mangrove, very close to the water. So try staying at an open area so that we do not lose you. And at this time,
but it's a problem of the global thing here. I think lighting hits a tower or something. We lose the electricity right now. So
you lost electricity. Okay.
See?
Gerson, I still cannot see you. Can you turn your camera back on?
Now I'm from in a black mangrove.
Black mangrove. Okay.
I'm gonna show you the details in the flowers. There we go. So
that's a great detail of the flowers, but they do not look black. Why do you call it black mangrove?
Yeah, well, it's just a common name, huh? Usually it's because the trunk will be red or white or black. So that's one of the reasons it's called black mangrove. That's, as far as I know, common names, But like the red mangrove, they have something very peculiar in the species itself. So in the red mangrove, you have those type of roots that grow like movement. You can see like S, or they say has life, the roots, and indeed. But in the black mangrove, we have something different growing, and those are called Pneumatophores. And this is a different type of root that will help the mangrove to breathe through the tough process of hydros and all the floatings of the mangrove. You can see it in the tail now.
Yes, these roots look very, very different than the stilt roots from the red mangrove. And tell me, Gerson, is it difficult to walk over there with all those roots coming out of the sand? Do they hurt you, or if I don't want to be like gruesome, but could you get impaled your feet by any of those roots, or are they soft?
They're very soft. You can touch it. You see. So it seems like the purpose is to being elastic, flexible, no hard enough. So it won't cause you any problem. Yeah, you see.
Great, great, Gerson. And what were you saying about this adaptation? Why is it important for the black mangrove?
So usually this is like let's think like a snorkel. So all right. So the main root is like a long tube underneath, probably 30 centimeters or sometimes less or deeper. And then those tiny fingers are helping to the main root to process all the oxygens, osmosis, all the process of gas interchange. So that's one of the coolest adaptations you will have in the mangrove. In this one in specific, other mangroves will use different ways to survive in the floatings. Let's say when the water is soft. So they do that using a special organ that is called lenticels. So they are like pores in like in the skin. So I'm just gonna try to show you one because also it's a very important part of the root system that we have in the mangrove. So I'm gonna get closer, trying to not lose signal or details. All right, so you can see some of the lenticels. There are.
I see them, all the white spots on the roots, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's right. All of those are lenticels. So those are the tiny holes where the root itself will breathe, let's say. So that's another detail in the roots here.
That's amazing, Gerson. Thank you so much. I will do a little trivia with them and then go back to you. Okay, so let's go back to the trivia because I already forgot the points and I already forgot the scoreboard. So Andrea is in the first place, Vanessa, Lori, Alfred, and Walter keeping up. And so let's go. Oh, this one, it's a very easy one because I already gave you the answer. So let's see who paid attention to the story about the strangler figs, which are one of the main food resource for tropical rainforests. And as I told you, which are a very diverse group of the Osa Peninsula and Puerto Jimenez mangroves, these figs. I hope that the picture gives you a clue of the correct answer. So strangler figs are pollinated by teeny tiny wasps, the Agaonidae tribe, which are very unique, and they need the strangler figs to survive, and the strangler fig needs the agaoni, these teeny tiny wasps, to survive. So it's a very stretched mutualism between these two organisms. And this one is directly related to mangroves. So we saw the black mangrove that Harrison showed us, and he showed us these tiny structures coming out of the ground. We call these pneumatophores. And the pneumatophores have a very important function in the whole mangrove ecosystem, and they are vital for the survival of mangroves, especially black mangroves. So what's this function of pneumatophores for black mangroves? We have 20 more seconds to answer. So all of you got it right. I'm very glad about that. And yes, pneumatophores are these aerial roots coming out of the ground. It's one of the most amazing adaptations mangroves have. They have this very complex root system that goes all below the sand level, but then since oxygen does not get there easily because of the tides coming high, coming low, they develop this adaptation to be able to breathe underwater. We compare this to a snorkel. So it's a very amazing adaptation that mangroves have between many other unique adaptations, because the mangrove ecosystem is very salty. It can be twice as salty as salt water. So imagine the high concentrations of salt. So mangroves usually have salt glands on their leaves where they actually exude crystals of salt. So they have very interesting ways of getting rid of the salt excess. And also the pneumatophores, the propagules are some adaptations that these plants have to these very harsh ecosystems they live in. Gerson, let's go back to you.
All right. One second. I have in front of me something that you were talking before. Figs or ficus.
Gerson, is it possible to open up a fig to be able to see if there are some wasps inside?
Yeah, we can try, but I can't tell. They are no ripe yet, but I can try. So I'm gonna ask. Hold me. It's kind of hard to open it, but you get to see it.
No, unfortunately, no, but I will believe you. Do you see any wasps inside or no?
No, no.
Okay, this one does not have any
No,
wasps.
not at all. No.
But it's great that you
But yeah,
showed us.
this is the evidence that they are hollow and they are specialized for the wax itself. All right, so that's a cool thing to see in detail, in fact. And also, it's a tree that is growing just straight in the shoreline, so it's a very well adapted tree. All right.
I will take a minute to answer one. Harrison, I will take a minute to answer one question before coming back to you, and it's because I saw a question on the Q&A section asking why is the Golfo Dulce or sweet Gulf anoxic? And this is a geological answer for this. So the Golfo Dulce is, you can imagine it as a valley Um, so it's very, very deep. And what happens is that the entrance where the sea comes into the Golfo Dulce is very, it's like, it's not the same level as the depth of Golfo Dulce. Is very high compared to the depth. So what it causes is for Golfo Dulce to become like a pot, like a boiling pot. So there is no water movement from the bottom of Golfo Dulce to the surface, which is the normal convective movement we see in lakes or at the sea. That does not happen at Golfo Dulce. So the water at the bottom of Golfo Dulce is completely still. It's not circulating. And because it's not circulating, it does not get any air, does not get any oxygen from the superficial waters. So that's why below 100 meters of depth, it's completely anoxic, the Golfo Dulce, because there is no water coming from the sea that actually gets to the bottom of Golfo Dulce. So Gerson, we can go back to you.
So now, because of the water, let us we can see again the benefits of the mangrove. At some point, all of this area used to be mangrove, all right? So because of the mangroves were here, the mainland was protected. But now, because the mangroves are disappearing, because sometimes people just find a clear area to, like see the Golfo, see the sunlight, etc. So they create this kind of problem here, all right? So the oceans increase. So what I'm saying is, like, one of the main purposes of mangrove here in the Osa Peninsula is just to protect the mainland. But we have also one of the biggest mangrove ecosystem in the area, which is the Humedal Sierpe terraba. Officially, we have in the whole Golfo Dulce, Osa Peninsula area, 7 species are considered as a mangrove, all right? And then totally in the Pacific is the only place, let's say in Costa Rica, where you find the most mangrove, all right? So if you go into the Caribbean side, you only gonna see few species, but also just like 1% of the total mangrove ecosystem in Costa Rica. So that's another privilege that we have in the Osa, all right? It's still surprising every single day. But then let's talk about something very important and the mangroves provide us, which is perhaps the carbon storage. So the mangrove storage or sink more CO2 than any type of forest in the world, and that is true, all right? So 5 times, 6 more times than the typical tropical rainforest. So again, that's a very important fact nowadays, living the threat that well we are facing, no, because of the global warming again. But then some people may think, what about plant mangroves? Well, if you try to plant a mangrove tree, the chances to survive is very low because they need to adapt. All the mangroves that we have here in the area, they are very old, millennium mangrove. So I don't know if you understand that part, but this is something very cool to understand, Charlie. Again, another, another benefit that we get straight from the mangrove is like, this is a fisher place. This is a fishery. I'm just gonna move a little bit here. So I'm gonna show you the main Puerto Jimenez pier, the harbor of Puerto Jimenez. At least there are 40, 60 boats, and perhaps 20, 30 of them depends of fishing. So yes, the Golfo Dulce has a stunning marine diversity, but it's because the mangrove. The mangroves are nurseries for about 80% of the fishes that we have here. 80% of the fishes grow, live, and thrive in the mangrove roots. Because of the mangrove provides shelter for those tiny fishes. Also turtles. By the way, the hawksbill turtle. All right. A lot of benefits that sometimes we don't see it till we have a fish in the table. All right. So that's another cool thing. And then what else the mangrove can give us the trade? Well, I love kayaking. So because of the boundaries that you have in the middle of the huge wetland mangrove, you can go with the kayak and you just go and enjoy the real, like moment, Osa moment. That's what we call it because it's unique. A moment where you are just connected with the forest that been there for a lot of time, and then this is another activity that you can get from the mangrove. And those are the main, let's say, that I consider benefits from the mangrove. I don't know, Charlie, you have something to add?
I think everything you said was actually what everything that I also know and why I think it's so important to take care of the mangroves. And actually, I just wanted to share something that I think we saw very, very fast because, well, we will only take 10 more minutes of our audience time. And it's the main threats to mangroves worldwide and what we can do to help mangroves from our homes because the main threats are the destruction of the habitat, what you actually showed us due to homes, hotels, and vacation houses like the one on Herson's, behind Herson. Ocean pollution is the other one. This is plastic pollution, oil spills, things like that. Climate change is also affecting mangroves worldwide because the water is getting warmer and this is affecting germination of the seeds. It's also affecting their growth rate. Um, and, and the most important nowadays is actually agriculture. Agriculture because in Asia, many rice fields, for example, are cutting down mangroves to produce rice and also shrimp farms. So it's hard for us to know, to actually, for many of us, to see what we can do to help mangroves worldwide. But what we can do is to be conscious consumers. Try not to eat shrimp that comes from these farms that have cut down mangrove. We can also support mangrove regeneration projects worldwide. We can donate money to support these programs. And I will ask you the next trivia regarding some ecosystem services that the mangroves provide, which is what Harrison was talking about recently. Some benefits that we get from mangrove forests. Benefits that are not always obvious to us, that are not always so clear, but that are very present in our everyday life. Even if we live in the continent, if we live far away from the coast, we still benefit from this. And please remember that mangroves only cover 0.1% of the whole world's surface area. But they are the most efficient ecosystem in CO2 capture that we know about. And actually, all of those are ecosystem services provided by mangroves. They protect the shoreline from waves and they trap sediments, preventing erosion. They are a nursery place for lots of animals and fish because of the abundant resources that you can find at the mangroves. They are carbon sink. They store a lot of carbon in the soil, and they are a food source for local families. Many people in Costa Rica live from the barnacles and the cockles and the other mollusks found on the mangroves. Okay. So maybe let's go back to Gerson to wrap things up and see if there are any other questions from the audience. We will be finishing in between 5 and 10 more minutes. Gerson?
All right, I'm here. Well, what are we saying like about the mangrove benefits, and also you add the rest of the things, the threats. So let's think in this way.
Gerson,
Uh,
I don't hear you very well. You changed something probably because I was hearing you better before.
no, now you hear me?
Well, it's fine. Let's go on like that.
See, but no, now the mangroves are facing more threats than any time before, right? And then, well, the fact to share it with you guys is like we have to do something, huh? We are doing it. We are learning, which is the main step. You have to learn something to know it and then protect it and love it. That's my three minds. But yeah, I'm just getting closer again to the mangrove to show you how the water, since we started the video, how the water now is retreating way a lot of distance. Huh? So in this tiny area, we have three types of mangrove. And that is enough to provide home and shelter for so many animals, all right? We see them here. And in fact, a few moments ago, I saw a bird fluttering around, and that could be probably an endemic hummingbird that is pollinizing the flowers of the black mangrove. And the hummingbird is called a mangrove hummingbird. All right. So little by little, I'm just getting closer, Charlie. I don't know if you have more questions or things to add because I'm freezing. I'm very wet. So, well, I think we have a great time. And you see, I'm getting through the mangrove now, little by little.
Thank you very much, Harrison. Actually, I just want to let our audience know or notice how the tide changed in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, how it was very high and now it's completely retreated. And I
And
want to show
also,
you,
Charlie, excuse me. And also, I'm just gonna ask to my friend to hold the phone so I can move and actually see the comparison level. Well, with me, with the person, you know. The water goes like this, all here. Yeah.
thank you, Harrison. Yeah, the water can get to chest level. So it's, how the tide changes, it's amazing. And I want to
Yeah.
show a little video, which is a very famous experiment about how the mangroves actually protect us against waves. So let me show you this. It's a very famous experiment, but it's always impressive to actually watch how the mangroves protect the shoreline. Look at the experiment recreating some waves and how they lose all their force when they pass through a mangrove forest. So what we have at the end is very easy water that has lost all its force. So that's one of the main reasons why we must protect mangroves worldwide. Then I'll do just two more questions before finishing this virtual experience and wrapping up and keeping going on with the Q&A section. And this one is about why do you think mangrove ecosystems are so important? Why are the mangroves so important for us, even if we live far away from the coast? We have 20 more seconds. Most of the mangroves in the US have been lost, unfortunately. Florida has lost more than 60% of their mangroves. And all of those reasons were correct. They help mitigate climate change. They are biodiversity hotspots, as we saw. They are key in scientific research because these adaptations that they have, how they get rid of the excess of salt, how they thrive in ecosystems so harsh, are a whole new field of study for scientists. And now they are using some genes from mangroves to improve some crops. So this is very new. The point of the lands in research regarding crop improvement. They have huge economical and societal value as well. And all of these animals, the jaguar, the tapir, the scarlet macaw, the humpback whale, the white mangrove, and the hawksbill turtle that Gerson mentioned, they are all entwined, they are all linked. If there were no mangroves, you might not see how they connect at first hand, but they are all related. The scarlet macaws need the mangrove, the hawksbill nest, the hawksbill turtle needs the mangroves to nest, the humpback whales come to the Golfo Dulce to mate. The tapirs are usually seen hanging around the mangroves because of the water. It's fresh, it's cold, it has lots of nutrients, and it's also a place where jaguars usually come to hunt. So all of them, all of those species which are very endangered, which are at risk, depend on the mangroves. This is where we are. That's where the place where we visited from the satellite. It's Puerto Jimenez. It's the Golfo Dulce. It's a little town. It's in the middle of nature, looking for balance, which with people like Gerson, who are these mangrove guardians, people who work on these mangrove regeneration projects, these education projects regarding bioliteracy, regarding teaching kids how to protect the mangroves, to do sustainable fishing to the fishermen living there. So I just wanted to end up with that message and maybe let Gerson say some final thoughts.
All right, Charlie, time to say goodbye, huh? Gonna give you a close detail again of the mangrove. Um, Also up there, you have a lot of epiphytes growing. Those are plants that grows on top of something. That's why it's called epiphytes. But this one in specifics are bromeliads, a family related with plants that we well know daily because of the pineapple. So they are related with the pineapple. All right, but let's take a look. They just grow on top of the trees, huh? But they don't have pineapples. So yeah, again, that's another example how mangroves are so important, not just for animals, but for another plants. Well, let me say goodbye to everyone.
Gerson, maybe try switching your camera to the front so that we can see you.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me try to handle this technology in 2, 3. There we go. Again, this is my partner. He was moving around with me, Jair. Well, this is the location we were, right here in Puerto Jimenez. Very cloudy day, afternoon, but it's always a pleasure to share it. It's part of it. The rainforest is just full of life, and the rain is part of it. Sometimes we have sunny days, sometimes we have rainy days, but both of them are cool, nice. So thank you very much. Again, if you have questions in a specific later on, I can look forward to responding. Charlie had my contact. You may have my contact. So thank you. Well, pura vida.
Okay, Gerson, stay there because usually at the end of the webinar, there is a short space for questions from the participants. So
right.
maybe, Lindsay, you're there?
Yes, hi. Thank you both. That was so interesting. I know I learned a lot, and I hope our participants did too. If anybody has any questions, we do have just a few moments if anybody would like to submit those through the Q&A. Well, I know we're a few minutes over time, so if we don't have anything come in, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I don't see anything coming in. So we want to just say that thank you so much to Charlie and Harrison, and also to Shair for his camera duties, and for welcoming us to their country and being such gracious hosts today, and for showing us around beautiful Osa Peninsula. Today's virtual experience has been recorded, and we'll be sending out a link in the next few days with that recording. The webinar recording will also be available on our YouTube channel and on our website. So again, thank you to Charlie and Gerson. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. We hope you enjoyed the virtual experience, and we wish you a wonderful rest of your afternoon or evening.
Thank you, Lindsay, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.